Hi there, salve. Welcome to Interview Insights, organized by the U.S.-Italy Forum. I'm Claudia Flisi, a journalist in Washington, D.C., and a graduate of SAIS, which hosts the forum. Today's conversation is with Matteo Lunelli. He's president of Altagamma, and more about that in a minute, and also president and general manager of Cantina Ferrari, the kind you drink and not the kind you drive. It was founded in 1902, and it's a leader in Italy for bottle-fermented bubblies. Matteo is a graduate of Bocconi, and he worked for 5 years for investment banker Goldman Sachs in Zurich, New York, and London, which is why he speaks very good English as well as Italian, and his international background is also relevant for the reason we're interviewing him today, because he is president of Altagamma. Altagamma is a group founded in 1992 that gathers Italy's top cultural and creative companies, that means the top luxury brands, to promote the country's excellence, identity, and lifestyle worldwide, and also to make money for themselves. Altagamma represents currently 113 brands from 7 different industries, the kind you'd expect from Italy: fashion, design, jewelry, food, hospitality, automotive, and yacht building. And together they boast more than 10,000 years of history. Altagamma's mission is to boost the growth and competitiveness of these companies and, by extension, of Italy's cultural and creative companies altogether, thus making an effective contribution to the overall Italian economy, as well as to their own coffers. The worldwide luxury market is worth an astounding $1,200 billion. That's $1.2 trillion, or a trillion euro, but it's about the same. And the Italian high-end sector has a turnover of 126 billion of that. It accounts for 7.4% of Italy's GDP, and 53% of its revenues officially come from exports, but it's actually more because many foreigners come to Italy to buy Italian luxury brands and then bring them back to their own countries, and therefore there is a lot more international than that 53% might suggest. We'd like to ask Matteo a bit about Altagamma first, although I've given an introduction, but perhaps you'd like to say a few more words about it, because your own company, your family business, is a member. I don't know if it's a founding member, but it's been a member for a while. So perhaps you can tell you what led to it and what experience you had with it as a member that have brought you to become its president.
So first of all, thank you very much for the introduction. And thank you for the nice word about me. I hope also my English will be, in line with your expectation. I still have my, probably a strong Italian accent. You said a lot about Altagamma, Fondazione Altagamma, but in general, it's a foundation that links, 113 brands of the excellence of Made in Italy. And one of the core characteristics that you mentioned is the fact that we don't represent a single sector, but we represent, we represent a different sector that together are an expression of Italian lifestyle, from fashion to design, food and wine, hospitality, yachting, jewelry, because we strongly believe that this excellent brand of Made in Italy share common values. And most of all, also, often they share the same clients around the world, because when you find somebody who is passionate about Italian fashion, he will be also passionate about Italian design, about our food and wine, our culture, our tradition. Perhaps he has been a tourist in Italy, and perhaps he understood our culture and our tradition here when he came to Italy. So there are shared and common values, there are common clients, there are common challenges, and this is where Altagamma comes, because our mission, as you said, is to boost the competitiveness and the growth of this industry that in the European Union is defined as the cultural and creative industries, because we want to underline how culture and tradition are at the heart of what we make. All high-end brands in Italy are usually very strongly linked to their own territories. They are a result of century-old traditions of craftsmanship, of that comes, that goes back to the Renaissance period, perhaps when these artisans started to build their goods and to to create what in Italy is beautiful, well done, and good, and tasteful. So Altagamma has been, as you said, was founded in 92. So we celebrated our 30th anniversary this year. And we have been over these 30 years loyal to this mission. And we celebrated actually our 30th anniversary, celebrating also the commitment of our companies to act in a sustainable way, which means more and more in harmony with the territory and the communities that host our companies, more and more in harmony with the environment that we want to protect, and more developing the talent of the people that makes our brand, our company great, and so developing the talent of the people of our company is certainly at the core of our mission and the core of our sustainability long term. You mentioned how this is a very important sector. The luxury goods sector in Italy is a very important sector for the Italian economy. We're talking about, as you mentioned, around 7% of the GDP, taking into account also the indirect effect of the overall sector. Almost 2 million people are employed directly or indirectly, and are linked to whole, the culture and creative industries in Italy. But most of all, I would like to underline that Italian high-end brand and the Altagamma brand are also part of our soft power. So they are certainly a great expression of Italian soft power, because when I go around the world and I see a boutique of Italian fashion or a shop for Italian furniture or an Italian restaurant, these are also ambassador of Italian lifestyle. I was recently in Japan for a beautiful trip, and in Japan there are almost 12,000 Italian restaurants, which is amazing. Some of them are managed by Italians, some of them are managed by Japanese, which are in love with so these are embassies of Italian taste. But certainly when you go to Ginza or Omotesando and you see the shops of Italian brands, they are ambassador of our culture and our tradition more than anything else. And this is why I underline that Altagamma brands are certainly a very important part of Italian soft power around the world.
Right. Your presidency started in December 2019. I remember you spoke to the Italian press about it at that time. And then all of a sudden, COVID hit, and COVID hit Italy hard and first. You had expressed some objectives about what you hoped to accomplish when you acceded to the presidency, and then all of a sudden everything changed. Can you describe a little bit about what you had hoped to achieve in November, December of 2019, and very briefly what changed, because basically everything changed, and what your objectives then became and whether you have achieved them?
I have to say that many things changed dramatically, but at the same time, the three pillars that we identified before COVID in 2019 as the core pillar of our program for the presidency, I think they still remained, extremely relevant, because I think that COVID mostly accelerated certain trends. To be precise, we have put at the center of our program in Altagamma the theme of sustainability, which I mentioned before. Mm-hmm. And the attention to sustainability, I have to say, that grew even more during the COVID time. So during the COVID time, I think more and more emerged in a new concept of luxury, which is more inclusive, a concept of luxury where our consumer and our clients are putting more and more attention to values. Most of the time, they select a brand when it represents the value that they consider relevant for themselves. They expect a brand to be active on social themes. And so sustainability has been, was already identified as a core pillar of our program. and became even more relevant in COVID times. Mm-hmm. Then, another element that we have put at the center of our program was, to be contemporary and helping our companies to be more and more able to engage new consumer. So digital was certainly part of this challenge, and the importance of digital grew dramatically during the COVID period. And so we have, what the importance of e-commerce grew dramatically, both in terms of sales and in terms of how digital impacts on the choices of our luxury goods customers. So this has been, this was a very important topic for us and became even more important afterwards. Then the third pillar was to help our companies to be more and more to develop their international business, because Altagamma company tends to export, certainly more than half of their turnover. At high-end brand of Altagamma, they are certainly they sell their goods and services worldwide. So they operate on a global scale, as I mentioned before about Japan, US, China, and all over Europe and Africa and Latin America. So it's really a global market for Italian luxury goods. And so helping them to develop their international business was certainly another element that we continued to pursue, an objective that we continue to pursue. Obviously, it became much more difficult because we were not able to travel. But I have to say that we did something very interesting. For example, notwithstanding that we couldn't go to China, we created an Altagamma club in China, where we basically linked all the managers of the Italian brands that were based in China, and sometimes they couldn't come back from China. Mm-hmm. And we linked them in a club together with the local institution of the Italian embassy, the consulate, and together with our main partners. This Altagamma club is a way to facilitate networking, and it started in a period where it was China was completely closed. So I remember I had to send a video message because I couldn't go in person. But this is an effort that we are continuing. Talking again about China, for example, we had just developed a mini program on WeChat, which is the most important social media in China, mm-hmm. where 74 high-end brand of Altagamma communicate together to the Chinese customer to present Italian culture and tradition, so to present themselves and what they make, but in general, what is Italian culture and tradition. And this is a very important project because the magic of Altagamma is that we are able to put together 74 brands, which sometimes are even competitors in the market, and but they are willing to cooperate in Altagamma. And the motto of Altagamma is cooperate to better compete. So inside of Altagamma, our brands can find ways to work together. And even if then on the market, they are sometimes, and many times competitors. But right. What makes it very special is the fact that, putting the different sectors together, we also can exchange best practices. And this is very helpful, most of all for the smaller companies and for the sector which still have perhaps room to grow. For example, in China, Italian fashion and the big brands of Italian fashion are very strong. And certainly doing a program together has been very helpful for other sector, like the wine sector that I represent is made of companies which are not as strong in the Chinese market.
Yeah. Right.
This is the magic of Altagamma, and putting together the excellence of Made in Italy creates a very positive and unique energy.
Okay, then let me switch to another question, jumping over one. Obviously, as you just alluded to, your members were dramatically affected by COVID and more lately by the problems in the Ukraine. So two of your most important markets, not yours personally, but Altagamma's in general, are China and Russia for size and also for other reasons. You've just described how your members are coping with and compensating for the problems in the Ukraine and other problems. What's happening in Russia? Because or have other markets overtaken those two markets or one of those two to compensate for the losses in those two areas?
Okay, let me first say that, obviously the war in Russia is a problem that goes far beyond the economic issues, because it's from a humanitarian standpoint, is certainly, a tragedy. But, talking about our, the business impact, certainly, Russia is much smaller than China. So the impact of certainly, Russian customer has been important for the growth of luxury in the luxury market, but they are not, they are much smaller than the impact of China. Just to give you an idea, in our Altagamma Bain market monitor, we estimate that in 2025, 45% of the purchase of luxury good worldwide will be made by Chinese consumer, which is enormous. So this estimate probably will decrease a little bit now because of what happened. But, we're talking about with something over 40%, in my opinion. So certainly, the United States is another huge market, very important for us. For some sectors like mine, like wine, is certainly much more important than China. But if you look at the overall market for luxury good, certainly China is a huge dimension. While, Russia is a market that has, that accounts for, let's say, around 3%, as we estimated, anyway, less than 5% of the total. So the relative dimension is completely different. Our industry has been affected by COVID in 2020. So there's been a decrease, almost 20%. So it was one of the first sector to be impacted, and impacted quite strongly. Different sector has been impacted in different ways, but I have to say the recovery has been incredibly strong and very fast. So as many times happened, the luxury goods sector is the first one to be hit by a crisis, but sometimes the first one to recover. And this time has been the case, especially, some sector has been, they in 2021, they closed far above 2019. Talking about, for example, the sector of design. Design was, in a way, benefited from the COVID time because people has put more and more attention towards home and home furniture. And so there has been a very strong demand for high-end design, furniture design from Italy. And so we have seen a very strong rebound in 2021 for design. Same thing for yachting, record sales of our brands in the yachting sector in 2021. If you look at the fashion sector, the recovery was there in 2021, but not yet generally at the level of 2019. But we have seen that, in 2022, the recovery has continued. So in general, the luxury goods sector has rebounded strongly. And in Italy, we have been also a strong element of recovery for the overall economy because, our brands, they are relevant because most of the time they are at the pinnacle of ecosystems made of small or very, very small enterprises, which are suppliers, which are part of the supply chain. And so this is why Italian high-end brands, the member of Altagamma, they can be a locomotive of the Italian economy, and they have been a locomotive of the Italian economy in this period of growth after the COVID pandemic. Now, obviously, we are witnessing a lot of uncertainties, because, as you said, the geopolitical situation with the war in Russia, we have a lot of we have issues in China because this zero COVID policy and this and the lockdown in China obviously creates a lot of issues for the sales of luxury brand. In general, certainly, the tourism is something that historically helped the high-end sector, and this was stopped for a while. But we are anyway very positive on the mid to long-term prospect of our sector. So we think that first of all, we also already had a strong recovery after the pandemic, and then we believe that there is a strong long-term growth trend that will continue for luxury goods. In this situation of higher inflation and higher costs, everybody's suffering, certainly. We are afraid about the consumer confidence, but in general, the luxury goods sector, high-end Altagamma brands should be better equipped in this contest, because obviously, you know, the high-end, the high net worth individual are certainly the one that probably will have to change less their consumer habits. And in addition, high-end brands tend to be more able to adapt their prices on the market. So we think that high-end brands are better equipped to face this challenging market condition. But certainly, you know, it's a period of great uncertainties and a period of where, you know, doing business anyway is challenging for everybody.
Right. No, and speaking of challenges, this is not a discussion that is at all political, but as you noted, the geopolitical situation does affect business, not only luxury goods, but certainly luxury goods. Italy's government has recently changed. You had an election on the 25th of September, and the government changed. And I just looked up that Italy's had 70 governments since 1945. So that's an average of one every 13 months. So by now you're used to it. But is there something that the luxury market in general does or is influenced by to respond or have more resilience to these constant changes of governments? Because in the US, changes of governments do have an impact. And I'm not only talking about an economic impact, it has a sociological, cultural impacts on spending and on consumer perceptions. So I assume perhaps also in Italy, is there anything you do to adjust to this? One every 13 months is quite a lot.
You know, obviously this has this continuous change of governments has a cost, and creates it's not efficient, you know. Just, you know, to mention, you know, for Altagamma, you know, I've been president of Altagamma, and part of our mission is also to relate to the government. Yes. And to make, you know, a very, you know, and to interact with government on important themes linked to development of our sector, and which, as I said, is a locomotive of our economy. And so we think that the growth of our sector can contribute to the growth and the wealth of our country as well. So we continuously have a dialogue with the institution, and obviously it's not easy because you know, we had to change, you know, from when I became chairman of Altagamma, for example, we had the government of Conte, Draghi, and then now we have a new one, which means that each time we have to continuously change you know, our reference and start, you know, and sometimes start, you know, the dialogue with them
to start over.
So that's challenging, and that's obviously, you know, not for me, but for all the sector is a problem. You know, I have to say that, for example, you know, we thought that when the Draghi, the government Draghi, you know, stopped, obviously we were not happy, because we thought, you know, in that period, you know, the government of Mario Draghi was certainly a positive government to face the challenging times. So we hope anyway that now we, you know, in Italy, we will be able to create, you know, a very strong government that will be able to manage these challenging times, and we are ready to interact with them. But certainly, you know, changing every time is not efficient. So we hope that the new government will be able to last, and to, you know, and also because we need to have, you know, an important dialogue. Also, you know, what is more and more important is to have a strong presence in Europe. And you know, now we are in you know, at the final stage of this relaunch program for the PNRR, which in Italy is and in all Europe is involves a huge amount of investments. So it will be very important for us to be effective in the way we interact with the European Union, because we need to really make sure that all the support can come to Italy in this moment, because it's a very challenging moment for every sector. As I said, we are in a period where, you know, the cost of energy is rising dramatically. There are issues in the supply chain, and you know, COVID has impacted many sectors, and so it is a time where Italy needs all the support, and I hope that the new government will be soon in action and strongly in action to do that towards the European Union. Talking about Altagamma, we also, in our activity, let's say lobbying activity, not only we interact with the Italian government, but we also have a constant dialogue with the European Union, and we do it through an association, an alliance with the other luxury association in the other countries.
Yes.
And so that's another interesting and important element, because Altagamma is part of the European Cultural and Creative Industries Alliance, together with Comité Colbert for France, Circle de Fortune in Spain, Walpole in the UK, Masterclass in Germany, and Gustav in Sweden. So together we create an alliance and we interact with the European Union. And that's very important, because in this moment, a lot of the important decisions related to the growth of our sector are taken in Europe. And just to give you one data, the European luxury sector and the European culture and creative industries account for 10% of the export of the European Union. So why, our sector overall is very important for the European Union. The European Union, the Union and the Commission is very important for us, because all the laws in terms of digital, in terms of intellectual property, and many other themes are taken, all the laws are, and the important decisions are taken at the European level.
Right. Okay. No, I didn't know it was 10%. That's huge. We're running out of time, so let's skip to one final question. There's so many more I could ask. Your term started in 2019 for 2020, 2021, and to end in 22, but here you still are. Because of COVID, have you extended, or are you on a second mandate? And when does that mandate end? And how would you scorecard your achievements during this extremely trying period?
Okay, I was elected starting in 2020. My mandate is of 3 years, so it's
a 3-year. Okay,
yeah, it's a 3-year mandate. So it's 2021, 22. So my first mandate will end in December, but I've been designated already for a second mandate.
Okay.
We will have to form a new board of director of Fondazione Altagamma in the General Assembly in December, but I was already designated in the Assembly in June for a second 3-year period, which I'm honored. And I think anyway, this decision has been taken also because all our members recognize that, thanks to the team of Altagamma, to Stefania Lazzaroni, our general manager, and all the team of Altagamma, I think the foundation has worked well in these 3 years, and we still have, we still probably need in the next 3 years to complete many of our projects, and so, at the moment, I think I can consider myself satisfied of what happened, because in the COVID times at the end, I think that our members have found Altagamma even more relevant for them and for the sector. And during COVID times, even if we were not able to meet in person, we had record attendance to all our board meetings, to our assembly, to our meetings through the digital, not only because it was easier through digital, but also because I think in difficult times like that one, the exchanges of ideas and exchange of best practices was very important, even on simple matters. So how do we organize the work inside? How do we react? There's been, COVID times, we have to remember, were extremely, extremely challenging also for because every one of us had to reorganize their business, their way of working. And so exchanging best practice was very important. And we found Altagamma as a great platform for that. And I think, all our members found that very relevant. In addition, as I said, I think that there are more and more, our members perceive that there are common issues and values and common links between high-end brands in different sectors, more than sometimes brands of the same sector between high-end and low-end.
Yes.
Because and sometimes you find it's easier to find a manager that goes from a high-end design brand to fashion or food high-end than going from branded to the low end. So we are talking about a sector, also an industry where we are seeing, fashion brands which are more and more involved in design and food, for example. So there are also links between the different sectors that are becoming stronger and stronger. There is, hospitality is relevant for everybody because tourism is very important for the growth of all our sectors, for the sales of fashion as much as design or food and wine. Yachting, if you think about it, is a yacht is basically a big box of Altagamma goods. Because inside of a yacht, you will put your clothes, you will put your furniture, you will put your wines, and and when it travels around the Mediterranean, it will be full, I hope, of Altagamma goods and Altagamma brand. So there are a lot of links, and we are witnessing also a growth of partnership between the brands of Altagamma. So I'm happy about how things are going, also because I see that the Fondazione Altagamma is more and more relevant to our members, and the Altagamma has grown the number of members in the last years. We have a lot of institutions and entities that want to become partners. We have grown the number of Altagamma partners, talking about financial institutions, retailers, or anyway, brands that wanted to interact with Altagamma. So in general, I think that until now, what we have done, as I said, thanks to the board of Altagamma, thanks to the team of Altagamma, has been very effective. And in these challenging times, the Fondazione Altagamma has been, I think, relevant to the sector.
In no small part due to your leadership. You don't seem to have aged at all since I first encountered you in 2019 with the burdens that you faced. You would think so, but it hasn't been the case. So obviously, you've done well by Altagamma, and they have obviously done very well by you. There are so many more questions, but we don't have any more time right now. So let's hope we can talk again in the future. And thank you very much for your time, and thank you all for listening. Ciao.
No, thanks to you. Thanks for the interview. As I said, it's a wonderful sector. So it's what we do is creates emotion, and we are ourselves. We are the first one who feel this emotion and this enthusiasm for what we make, and we are proud to be, as I said, ambassador of Italian lifestyle.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you very much.
Thank you. Ciao. Bye.
Ciao, ciao. Bye, bye.